how are they framing this as a fairy tale engagement? He did it in his backyard. And he took the advice of his dad, which sounded like bad advice to me. It's not where you do it, you know what I mean? You can do it on the side of the road. Joel, I'm not saying you have to have a crazy engagement story for it to be love. That is not what I'm saying at all. But this mentality is like, bitches don't care. These desperate pick-me's, they just want the win. They want the winning. We're never getting rid of this guy now. We are never getting rid of this guy. God, I can't stand this man. I don't care about him. I don't care about her. I don't care about them. And now I'm gonna be forced to see them more. Ugh. And I swear, like he is, look, America's sweetheart. This is so gross. Everything about this is gross. This is such a perfect example of where we're at. This dude who is not very funny. I don't find him like super attractive, but whatever. Maybe he's your type. Has now landed himself in just, he is set for life. He is set for life. Got his breeder. He found himself a breeder. His words, not mine. And just like, I mean, I think he's almost like leaning into how ridiculous this is. But like before the American Eagle thing came out, this GQ photo shoot, like, it's like he's a caricature of himself. Like I'm so tired of him. I'm so tired of him. I don't want to know anything about him. But he did it. He's America's sweetheart. America's sweetheart. Because he is now marrying America's sweetheart, which, by the way, I'm a little all over the place, but I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I hate the NFL so much. I hate the NFL. It is so racist, so sexist. And I didn't realize this till recently. I saw a video recently that talked about how they've been trying to expand the NFL, and they're going international now. And like, this feels like a business deal. And that proposal, how could anyone find that romantic? Like, what is this anyway? This is so ugly. And I don't know anything about jewelry. I hate jewelry. I don't know anything about diamonds, but this is ugly to me. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with me? This to me is ugly. Was this her idea or was it his idea? Let's just talk about what they said happened. Like his dad. So he was like, I was talking to Scott Swift and Travis went to ask him for permission. And this was probably a month ago. And Scott said, well, come on. When are you going to get this done? Get her done. So Ed said, Scott, he'd been pressing Travis, 35, to propose to the Taylor, also 35. Your daddy had to pressure him? Is this a shut up ring? Thank you, Dr. Cecilia Regina, for popularizing that term. Wait, I think she came up with that term. I don't know. Dr. Cecilia Regina, if you're not following, do. This sounds like a shut up ring. Like, just come on now. I mean, whatever. Of course, this man was going to eventually do this because, she is his, cash cow. He said breeder, not me. So, yeah, all this pressure from Dad, what's his name? Scott. So Ed is just happy that his son finally popped the question. Well, it sounds like two men were getting eager. I don't know. It seemed like, isn't her dad one? I don't know. This sounds like people keep saying this is like the U.S. American version of like a royal wedding. This sounds about right. Would y'all he didn't come to me for advice as much as I went to him to tell him, to get this done. The proud father. Why are you proud? Why are you proud you had to pressure him to get her done? Now listen to this. Travis had these plans to do it the next weekend before flying out to Brazil for a Kansas City's Chiefs game against Los Angeles. Okay, I'm going to go over to this part in a minute because you will not convince me that the NFL is benefiting so much from this that I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but this feels like a match made in heaven for the NFL to make an insane amount of money, especially now they have private equity running everything and whatever. I'm going to go back to that in a minute. So he's about to go to Brazil. But the reason why I say this is nobody abroad cares about American football. Nobody knew who Travis was over here. I'm in France. Nobody knew who he was. They only knew who he was because of Taylor. Nobody here watches American football. It's boring. God, other than like major injuries that happen because it's so dangerous, it is boring. Here, 90 minutes running back and forth nonstop with one pause. I used to find that boring. Now I find it exciting because I understand football, or soccer as we call it, more. But whatever. Also, my dad watched so much football, I refuse to ever watch that game again. Like so many girls in the US who grew up with dads like this, and actually anybody who had a dad like this, you realize you either love the game or you hate the game. You love the game to be on daddy's side. You hate the game because you realize dad always cared more about you or football than you. Whatever. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. He was gonna make a big production out of it someplace. Wanted to make it a bit special. And given how like flashy this guy is, I was kind of shocked that Travis didn't do something crazy wearing this, maybe, doing something like this, like whatever. Because he just loves attention so much. And just watching him after winning the Super Bowl and what was he singing? The roof is on fire. What was he singing? What was that chant? If you're still watching, what was that chant? It wasn't the roof. What was that chant? I was like, what are you doing? Are you like 12? God, drunk Travis is even more annoying than Travis. So it seems like he would do something crazy because he just loves attention. And Scott told him, asking her is what's going to make it special. What? Because she's so desperate to get married and have that ugly ring on her finger that the fact she's asking it all, that's what's going to make it special. Don't worry about how, who, where, none of the details. She doesn't need to have her little moment that girls and women have been conditioned is the thing. Then you get to post it on Facebook. I said, yeah. All that crap. No, she wouldn't want that. Definitely no women have ever wanted that. As long as you ask her, get her done, right? That's what matters. Imagine giving this advice proudly and bragging about giving this advice. No, like the biggest pop star in the world definitely doesn't want something special. I mean, I could see her not wanting something flashy, but like that's not what he's not saying it because he knows her. He's just saying like, no, it doesn't like the bitch just wants the ring. She just wants to be married. You don't have to do anything. Just ask, do it in your backyard. Do it on a bus. Hell, do it while you're taking a dump and throw the ring under the door. Just get it done. Don't worry about any special date. Just, you're ready. You got the ring. Is this man, Taylor, you need to ring it in. You need to have your people talk to Travis's people and get his daddy to shut her because this is a really bad look. This is so bad. I told him the same thing Scott told him. Great. So both of y'all gave this advice. Taylor's dad and Travis's dad both said the same thing. Don't make it special. This bitch doesn't deserve it. Get her done. Like, I'm not surprised that her dad, because he seems like a total dude. I'm not surprised he said this, but I can't believe that her team did not prep Daddy Kelce on this is a bad look. Travis ended up listening to the advice of his dad and future father-in-law and proposed to Taylor in his garden. 2 weeks ago at home. They were going out to dinner and she was ready to go. And he said, let's go out in the garden on the patio and have a glass of wine before we go. Now, I don't even believe this story because I feel like everything in her world is very curated. There's no way that I feel like there's no way, since they're both so business oriented, that they both didn't decide what they were wearing. Like, you will not convince me she didn't know this was happening. There's no way. for that photo? Or you know what? Maybe he did do this. And then she said yes. And then they were like, she's like, oh my God, this is like, we need, like, I didn't, like, then they went back and recreated the moment because there's, whatever, who cares? I think she knew something was up because as they walked out there, she could see suddenly there were a lot more flowers out there. Wow, that's all he did. He got her an ugly ass ring and added some flowers to a garden that already has flowers. And you know what? This is just one tiny level up from doing it on the side of the road like your dad suggested. He's never seen him so happy. I think it's wonderful. These are two young people madly in love with each other, and I think this is great. Great for your business. Your son is the most famous dude. Like one of the most famous people ever now. Thanks to her. Of course you're happy. The family on both sides kind of assumed that this was going to happen because we've never seen our kids. Okay. I'm not saying that they are not in love or have a relationship. I am just saying there is no way that business is not a part of all of this. And by the way, marriage is a business. Even if you marry for love, which I hope to God if you marry, it is for love. It's still a business. Better get your pay. I hope she signs a prenup. Although I wouldn't be surprised if this man ends up surpassing her because he has all her fans plus all his fans, where she just has her fans because his fans are like dudes. Football dudes. You think they like her? No way. I wouldn't be surprised if he literally, this is what I tell you, women date down all the time and we pull these men up. That, like, I'm sorry, if Beyonce can get cheated on, like, what are the chances of this thing lasting? Whatever, we'll never hear about whatever. Ugh. You could never pay me to date a man this big. Snap me in half? No way. How do you not expect me to think of this? Like, this is basically feels like what's happening right now. Like, this guy might as well have proposed. I mean, whatever. I know it's not the same. But as Meech said, like, who called him America's sweetheart? Who elected him this? This is not, he did not earn this. He literally is like, that one. That one will secure me as more famous than The Rock, which is all he ever wanted. More on that in a second. In that thread, I could not help. This is why I hate the internet and I love the internet. Like, I know everyone has their moments. And he seemed fine with it. He got like, whatever. But I just, the thing is he had his own reality show. I don't like his style, really. Sorry, I should take the word really out. I hate his style on him. Maybe someone else, but not him. I can never unsee this. This is what I think of every time I have to see this man's face. That, or when he won and he was at the parade, he was so drunk and obnoxious. I was like, ew, you are so much worse than my pretty big imagination. He kept doing chants. He kept doing things. I'm like, you are not funny. You're not funny. And yet, guess what? He got to be on Saturday Night Live. Okay, I'm going to go over this whole article in a minute about how this man became so powerful. This was, besides her, like, was the key that unlocked all this. I'll never forgive you. You'll never convince me this isn't a PR thing on some level, either by the NFL or her dad or something. Not saying, maybe they get along. They kind of seem like they deserve each other. I don't know. I don't have anything against her. And honestly, I wrote an entire article sympathizing with her. And I literally did it so that I would have to research Taylor Swift because I just didn't like her. I didn't know why. And then I was like, maybe that's internalized misogyny. So I made myself watch the, whatever this thing, what is it called? The Netflix, sorry, I thought the title was the Americana or whatever. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, oh, okay, look, she stood up to daddy. Stood up to daddy. Struggled with an eating disorder. I wrote this article from Harper's Bazaar, The Trap of Needing to Be Liked. Now, I would write this much differently now because of a lot of my mutuals on TikTok. One of them being Tammy, the empathy gap. If you want to understand whiteness and the way white women we are in this trap and how that plays out in the world, buy Tammy's book, listen to White Woman Whisper. So many of my mutuals, those two specifically talk to white women And I would write this very differently now, but we live in, I'm not ashamed of this article, but I you learn and grow. But I've known for a long time that there's like something about just being a white woman and how we do all this stuff. And it's a trap. I didn't realize how much of that really came down to whiteness and white supremacy culture. I knew it was a big part of it, but I didn't realize just how much a part of it is. After this Netflix thing, I was like, oh, okay, I respect her standing up to daddy, and she's a brand. She's got this whole thing, but she finally did it. She did the right thing. And then she did it one more time for Kamala, and that's it. That's all she's not doing anything else. Nothing about Palestine. Nothing about, like, literally anything that's happening now. Nothing. But we're supposed to buy more albums. I've never bought an album. Like, I don't listen to her music. I don't care. And if you love her stuff, I love that for you. I know she means a lot to so many women. And so many people, but especially women and girls. And, I loved seeing people going to her concerts. I loved watching people have so much joy, like girls with their moms and wearing this friendship bracelet, whatever. When I forced myself to try to understand why people loved her so much. When I was writing this article, I went under Reddit threads. I interviewed people who loved her because I just wanted to know, like, what is it about her? And they would tell about some of the stuff she's done and how she had, homemade cookie parties, or whatever, I forget now. This was like 5 or 6 years ago. But I was like, okay. And now I'm kind of like, yeah, it sounds like a brand to me. Sounds and like I understand now more than ever why she gets so much criticism for playing into the like white woman victimhood stuff that we are so indoctrinated into. Like, our white woman victimhood is literally the foundation that so much anti-blackness and so much so much violence, especially from white men, is that it's on this like white women's victimhood. Right? I knew that when I became a history major in college and focused a lot on the South where I grew up, because I want to know what the hell, what I don't understand, why is my family like this? What is this thing? Why do I have to perform all the time? Why do I have to like lie, like through omission? I have to oh, here it is, puppet. I'm bringing the puppet back. I have to be right? Innocence, this purity, right? All this crap, right? I can't imagine what it's like to be famous as a teenager and be good, but like, I can't forgive her for the planes. I can't forgive her for so many things that she's done. Whatever, if you like her music, fine, but now I'll never forgive her for bringing Travis Kelce. Is that his name? Kelce. Whatever. I don't want to know his name. I don't want to know his brother. His brother seems way cooler. I don't want to know his parents. I don't want to know this man. And now it's everywhere all the time. And it's only going to get worse. I made videos like whenever they started dating. Now, was that 2 years ago or something? I was like, I don't know. I made a few videos being like, I don't like this, and this. Don't care about her, but like she may want to look out for this. And then the Swifties, who are always white women in my comments, are like, no, she's okay, whoa, okay, sure. Don't you want her to be in a healthy relationship if you really, really love her? How am I doing something wrong by being like, this is weird, I don't like this? Start breeding. Hey, all the breeders out there, after having a whole show of women who get to audition to date this dude, like, bleh! And it's like, men's jokes are never jokes. I say that all the time. Like, there's always truth behind their jokes, And it's like, oh, yeah, he's gonna be funny, it's whatever, but like, I gotta find me a breeder and get all those kids to mommy and love me again. Whatever, I know that's a joke. But I can't imagine in my wildest dreams the word breeder coming out of the mouths of any of the men I know. Why don't you just call her a cow? We got a break from all this once she wasn't on tour, and a little break while they're not after the Super Bowl. And then they came out with that. He had her on. He also had Brad Pitt on his podcast. So fork you even more, man. Like the fact, I did like an hour-long video about this forking guy, Harrison Butker, whatever. Anybody who hangs out with this dude, defends this dude, and is like, I'm so happy the birds won because this was the Maga team. This is the Maga team. Taylor is going, I mean, I don't know if this is her launch into Maga wifedom, but like, I don't see any other future that these are the people she's going to be hanging out with, that she's been hanging out with. And I know you can't choose your teammates, but you could not defend this guy. You could just say nothing. But like Travis, he was honored to have the president or whatever the exact words are defended this guy. Like, ugh. I want to cover a couple more things as to why you will never convince me this man did not ask her out because he knew this would seal his fate as being more famous than The Rock. So this article for the New York Times from January 2024. Oh, it cut off the photo. These are the men who made him this famous. Brilliant strategy. I'm glad they highlighted the people behind Travis becoming so famous before Taylor. But they were in the car with him or whatever, and Travis saw The Rock on some billboards in LA, and he's like, man, I don't think I'll ever be as famous as The Rock. I as an artist, or any kind of person, like, gymnast, football person, whatever, if you become famous, that does mean that you are probably successful, unless you've done something so awful that is what you became famous for. So one of the double-edged swords of being an artist is like, when I first started comedy, because I hadn't worked on myself as much, but especially when I was young, I was like, oh my God, I want to be famous. Like, whatever. It's like not like a weird dream to have, to be like a celebrity and famous and be adored. And then especially if you work on yourself and realize all of that comes down to not getting that and like your ego, and that it actually would be a curse to get that, especially when you saw like River Phoenix die and all these people die from fame, and you're like, oh, this doesn't seem great. And then like I got into the comedy world and saw what happened to people I knew who started getting more successful. And I was like, I don't like what happens to a lot of people when they get famous, especially if they have a lot of unresolved childhood trauma, especially men. God, the worst versions of themselves were already there, and it just like amplifies everything. It's like times a million. And so you start to realize that like, I don't want to be famous. I want to be successful, but I don't want to be recognized. I don't want to be famous. But then I do this thing. So it's like, I don't want this. And most people I know who really love the craft, love what they're doing, don't want to be famous. They just want to be able to do what they love to do and are good at doing, but they want privacy too. They don't want fame. This is like a child, like teenager approach to life. I want to be as famous as Rock. And then his co-managers are like, yes, you can. You can be that famous. And then they made him this famous. His childhood dream was to be on Saturday Night Live. I swear to God, men who want to be comedians are worse than male comedians somehow. It's hard to believe that it's possible to be worse than most cishet male comedians, white ones especially. It's so hard to imagine a worse type of man. That's why I didn't date any comedians. And I rarely was friends with any of them unless they came from some sort of something. They had to work so hard to get through so many obstacles, so they appreciated it. Then those men, sometimes they didn't work on themselves. Then they had like a revenge fantasy. Or if they were gay or trans or person of color, or if they had like childhood trauma that they'd actually dealt with, like really awful things, and they'd actually dealt with it, those men were funny. Right? Or tended to be more, because they're more grounded in truth, not ego and being like the most powerful group of people, which is like cishet white men, especially if they come from money. And but those men are usually the least funny are men. But the only thing worse than those men are men who want to be comedians. Nothing is worse than the men who think they could be comedians and they're not. Somehow those men are worse, and he always wants to be on Saturday Night Live. He wants to be famous. He wants to be on Saturday Night Live. Can you imagine how many jokes that she has to like pretend are funny? I can't imagine. She doesn't have to. Let me correct. White Woman Whisperer has helped me see how much of this, like, this in the subtlest ways of, like, just accepting that men are this way and we just have to put up with it. You don't have, and I don't do this anymore, but for the longest time I was like, pretend to laugh at men's terrible jokes. And then I was like, I am self-abandoning every time I perform laughing. I don't do it anymore. I refuse. But imagine living with an obnoxious guy when he's drinking, who hangs out with, like, the worst people, it seems. I mean, his family seems not so bad. And then he wanted to be a comedian. How did this guy get on Saturday Night Live before some of my friends who are in comedy or comedians successful and are brilliant? Whatever. But yeah, carefully manicured business plan developed by the Eanes. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Eanes brother. It all blossomed. And then he started dating Taylor. And it was just like... And they even tried to pitch getting him on SNL back in 2020. And they're like, no. And then what? After he started dating Taylor and won that Super Bowl, boom, he's on it. I still can't get over this. Catching Kelce. As if he's just this moving target. You gotta catch him. Are you the lucky girl that can catch him? Because you're a pick-me and you're desperate. And, you know, are you going to be picked by the man who's unpickable? So, yeah. He made it. He made it on Saturday Night Live for being football player, but he's only on Saturday Night Live because of Taylor. He would never be on that show without Taylor. There's no way. There's no way he wouldn't be getting all these brand deals without Taylor. Now let's talk about what's going on with the NFL, because I do think that these are connected. I think the NFL was like perfect, right? Taylor is what they have been desperately needing so that they can use women the same way Matt Rife used women to build their fan base and make a ton of money and take this thing global. Look at this. Dublin, Melbourne, Madrid, Berlin, Sao Paulo. They're doing the NFL games in all these countries that are obsessed with football, not American football, and they're selling it so hard. They want it to be an international league. Like, the way that capitalism and just especially private equity makes everything have to grow. Like, it doesn't why does everything has to grow? This is literally why we don't have a planet left, much of one, because you just gotta keep exploiting. Look at this. They're even going to add flag football to the LA 28 games in the Olympics. All of this is to get American football out into these other countries so they can make even more insane amount of money from exploiting their players. And there is so many, I've done videos about this, the ties between the way that they especially exploit black men and they treat black men, and then the way they treat women, not just black men, but the way they treat black men in football. Like Colin and so many, this particular industry, the NFL, is so gross. And it is so American. It is the perfect example of the United States and what we are about and what we are rooted in. And of course, the colonizer that it is, the colony that became the colonizer, the empire wants to expand. They want to make it so that the players can have their international playing team on their helmet. And private equity is behind why this is becoming so much worse in every industry. That's why most of the papers that I wrote for, like as a freelancer, stopped paying me. Private equity, right? Private equity and AI without regulations is going to be our downfall, y'all. It already is. And you know what? They don't want to piss off the original fans, so they're like, we know. We'll just make the players play more games. How about expanding to 18 regular season games? Like, not only they do the domestic games, but now they're going to do, and the European football, they do that here. They got new cups, new matches, all this stuff. Like, these players never rest. Now, they get paid a lot, but still, it's like everything's just more. And of course, they don't want to do that without using women. Like, they are doing everything they can to cater to women, and they're successfully doing it now because of Taylor. But they've been trying to do this for a while because they need us. Please don't watch the NFL. Please do not fall for this. Unless you've always been a fan and you love it, and if you love it, I love it for you. But please do not let them push you to watching this game that exploits its players and especially The cheerleaders. More on that in a second. But like all this accidentally cutting to like the Swifties were watching all these games because they wanted to see her. They made so much money. I would think it was like $1 billion, or I forget. I'm not pulling up the article. They made so much money off of her dating that man. The industry benefited so much. All these dads finally bonded with their daughters because they want to watch football. And the only reason they'll talk to these stupid little girls who want to bug them all the time is if the girls want to watch what daddy wants to watch. Then they're all like, great. Like I did a whole video about that like a year ago. They partnered with Betches Media, which I don't really know much about them, but they do humor, cultural topics. They do podcasts, newsletters, events, social channels, all that stuff to geared towards millennial and Gen Z women. Cool. Now they've partnered up with the NFL. Great. Well, can y'all pay the cheerleaders first before you court us? Because I don't know if you know this, but the cheerleaders are some of the worst treated people in by comparison to the men in their industry. They are treated so bad. And if you haven't watched this documentary, I actually watched the follow-up this year. I've watched last year and this year, and honestly, I have so much to say. If you want to see this, please let me know, because so much of the stuff I talk about is in this documentary that I would love to talk about, but it's a huge investment of my time. So if y'all aren't going to watch it, I will talk about other things. But if you want to see me talk about the Dallas Cowboys, right? Dallas Cowboys, yes, please, do it, Mel, whatever. Because the way that these women had to fight so hard against their white women bosses to get a pay raise. And who led it? It was mostly women of color. There's so much about whiteness, patriarchy, domestic violence, just like the way white women older white women will stand in the way of generations who are literally fighting for what they should, like, the hypocrisy, like so much. Let me know if you want this. It is such a tragic story, and it made me respect cheerleaders so much because, again, my own internalized misogyny, didn't like Taylor, didn't like cheerleading, didn't like all that stuff because I'm a tomboy and I don't like this stuff pushed on me, and so I used to whatever. But seeing how hard they work and how much they're exploited and all that stuff made me really respect cheerleaders. And yet they have Marine style hazing, poverty wages, and lifelong injury. This is the sad secret life of cheerleaders. Now, this article came out around the time of the Super Bowl last year to highlight, hey, if you like football, you better care about this. I would love to see, now that Taylor is a football wife, I would love to see her talk about this. But she won't. She won't talk about anything other than her stupid albums. God! Like, sense of purpose beyond selling stuff should be your goal now. It should have been. But, like, to be a part of an industry and to go to all the games and never speak out about this. The average salary of players in the NFL, $2.7 million per season. The average salary of cheerleaders, $22,500 a year. Some of them don't even get paid. They're independent contractors. So they're not required to be paid by the NFL or the NBA in line with minimum wage laws. They have to they have to spend all this money on looking good, training, makeup, hair, all this stuff, and the time investment, and they have to have multiple jobs to do this. And the mascot makes more money. The mascot makes $3,000 more on average a year. I'm not saying the mascot job isn't hard. I can imagine wearing that big outfit and doing a bunch of stuff. But those cheerleaders are next level athletes. I'd argue they're bigger athletes than a lot of the football players. So, how can you be considered a feminist when you don't talk about anything? And you're letting this industry that's so awful use you to bring other women and girls into this industry to support such a racist, misogynistic, cruel industry. But now she's a football wife and she's got the ring because Travis got her done. I hope she signs a prenup. I don't know how to avoid this. Even though, like, my For You page is pretty good. I don't see much of this man. But all of... if you read the news, it's... 2025 has been a hard year. And now this. So many people are falling in the line. So much stuff to worry about. And now we have these two who are going to play in our face, who have more money than any of us could ever imagine. There is no such thing as an ethical billionaire. Flying all over, 20-minute flights in the private jet, doing all this, and now we can't escape it. Anyway, well, you got picked, Taylor. You got picked. I'm glad you didn't get proposed to on the side of the road, like Daddy thought would be a good idea. God, anyway, let me know what y'all think. If you like my work, please follow my Patreon. That's where I do all kinds of watch parties, Q&As, do meetups, travel content, personal stories, lives. I interview a lot of people. I'm going to be releasing some of those soon, like a 40-minute version of the long live, so you can get a taste of what we're doing over there. Thank you, Patreon people, for all your support and love. You make it so I can continue to show up and do this, especially because algorithms are not reliable. So let me know what y'all think about this, and I'm sorry if you're a Taylor Swift fan. I'm just saying, if I had been was a fan like her and fan of hers, and she just kept selling more and more stuff and not talking about really important things, I don't know. I would feel betrayed. That's just me. Anyway, let me know if you heard the comments. Sweetheart, America's sweetheart, sweetheart, hey, America's sweetheart. He's a douchebag, sweetheart. He's a douchebag, America's sweetheart. Who made him a sweetheart? Yeah, America's sweetheart. Oh, face. America's sweetheart, America's sweetheart. I get to be the most famous man like The Rock. And I got a big old staff cause I ride boats with alligators. America's sweetheart. Look at him with the cold blues and the fuzzy vest. Look like this guy. Oh, this guy. America's sweetheart. He's a douche. America's yelling sweetheart, sweetheart, raw. But he has nice bags, I guess, and clothes with tits painted on them. America's sweetheart, roar, roar. Leather hat. Look at me, I'm a curator who hangs out with douchebags. America's sweetheart, who elected him as a new bucket hat. Hey, America's sweetheart. I don't want this. This is stupid. I hate this. Don't care about this ugly ring. America's sweetheart. This is who we have now. The biggest douchebag sweetheart. Hey.